Extreme snowmobilers slam the throttle wide open and go vertical. Thousands of rats get personal, gorging themselves at a shared dinner table. And things turn physical when the big boys fight it out. Lions versus buffalo. It's your world. Get ready. This isn't kid stuff. It's taken Rodney Mullen decades of practice to become one of the best freestyle skateboarders in the world. He doesn't play by the rules, because there aren't any.
I think what attracted me to skating in the beginning was just the freedom of it. That there were no coaches, there was no one telling you how to swing or a team to rally behind you. I like the individuality.
Some might think skateboards are for kids and slackers. But Rodney is in his 40s and does this for a living. Called by many the godfather of skateboarding, he's won practically every competition he's ever entered. And he's invented dozens of tricks that only a few can do as well as he can.
I have these ideas, and I really can't wait to get up the next day to try them.
Through endorsements and appearances, Rodney has managed to make money. Skateboarding is always on Rodney's mind.
So I would dream up stuff during school when I was supposed to be focusing on whatever was on the blackboard, and I would just be thinking of skating all the time. As today, when my wife is talking to me, it's always the same. I'm thinking about skating.
Yeah, perfect career choice. For this man, sharing a meal with rats is sort of like a family get-together. It's believed these particular rodents are the reincarnation of long-lost ancestors. They live here in an ancient temple in India. Tens of thousands swarm throughout the building complex. A milk pan looks like a watering hole on the Serengeti. Devotees of the goddess Karni Mata believe they too will come back as temple rats in another life. So the rodents are coddled with a lot of creature comforts. A cook prepares them special food. They are even allowed to nibble between meals. It may look unsanitary, but in its 100-year history, the temple has never had a recorded incident of plague or any other illness spread by rats. And because they're basically departed family members, it's considered a blessing to have one jump right on you. We're used to seeing dolphins perform some pretty incredible tricks. But these dolphins at a Florida marine park have perhaps the greatest parlor trick of all time. They blow bubble rings. Can this be for real? Or is it some sort of computer-generated special effects? You decide. Curators say the dolphins even use their noses to spin and reshape the rings, and sometimes bite them as well. So are these talented marine mammals for real or not? The answer? Yes, it's real. Dolphins in SeaWorld in Florida somehow learn to expel air from their blowholes while underwater, and then, with a flick of their heads, create circles of bubbles. No one taught them to do it. They just figured it out and showed the trick to each other. Experts think they do this just for fun and practice in front of visitors. Perhaps we can count showing off as another trait these remarkable mammals share with us humans. A single drip of water splashes outwards to form what's commonly called the crown. But what happens next is baffling. A cone of water shoots upwards out of the tank. To find out what causes this phenomenon, a digital cinema camera captures the action at more than 1,000 frames a second.
Aim
To the middle.
to the middle, that'd be great.
Okay.
And I'll just...
Behind the scenes, the team tries to get the perfect shot.
Okay.
God,
All right, that's a good one.
There's a
I should
second
change,
one.
yeah, I mean, I should focus outward a little bit more. So let's just try it again.
Okay. All right, doctor. Ready.
Trying to hit the table, and then we'll give it a go. All right, I think we're set.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Get a good drop here.
Droplet explosion part 2 is ready to go. It's good. Sorry.
Okay, here comes the science. The initial crown widens to create a gap in the surface of the water. Then the sides of the crown rush to fill the hole with such speed that the water collides. The result? A column of water is forced upwards out of the tank. And it has a cool name, too. This is what scientists call the back jet. You can get killed doing this stuff. Basically, snowmobiles are the equivalent of a motorcycle on a tank tread and skis. Yet despite the risks, enthusiasts gather in Revelstoke, British Columbia. Many national parks ban snowmobiles as disruptive and noisy. But riders here are allowed to blaze trails any way they can do it. That's a moving car. These riders are going to do something perhaps even more dangerous. It's a popular game called High Mark. Riders open throttle on a really steep slope. So steep it can look like they're rocketing straight up the mountain. Sometimes they make it over the crest. Sometimes not. They turn or fall back down the mountain. A rider who crashes a snowmobile is lifted off the slope to safety. Participants pitch in to pay for a rescue helicopter on standby because they know it's likely someone, at some point, will lose control. Crashes, however, aren't the only danger. This guy has triggered a small avalanche. He survives, but 19 riders in a single year were killed by avalanches in this same region. Still, some snowmobilers can't resist a game when the stakes are this high. Top 3 countdown. Killer bugs of the forest. Number 3. The bulldog ant of Australia is as small as a fingernail. But it injects one of the most powerful venoms in the insect world. Then carries its prey home for a feast. Number 2. The Goliath bird-eating spider is much larger, as big as a dinner plate. And its fangs are almost an inch long. When it's finished, only bones and skin remain. But this South American giant has an enemy that attacks almost anything in its path. That would be number 1, the giant centipede. It's the largest of its kind, reaching up to a foot in length. A voracious carnivore with 2 legs per body segment, it's built for speed. Making it our number 1 killer creepy crawly of the forest. The lions of Africa's Serengeti. They're sociable creatures, banding together to raise cubs. And extra claws help bring down prey. Usually a pride has only a handful of lions, which is why this pride is something extraordinary. 8 adult females, 2 males, and 12 adolescents and cubs. 22 mouths to feed in all. It's called a super pride, and it's a rare phenomenon. All these lions and cubs need a huge amount of food. 300 pounds of meat each day. During migration season, they hunt their preferred prey, wildebeest and zebra. Easy pickings for this pride. But when the migration ends, almost all that's left on the menu are Cape buffaloes, an altogether different beast. A buffalo weighs almost double a zebra, so it's a formidable opponent. To kill one calls for a whole new set of hunting tactics. Usually, female lions are the hunters. But the buffalo is so big, bringing him down requires a powerful male. There's enough meat for all members of this massive pride. Eventually, the youngsters will grow and break away to form new social groups. But for the moment, this rare super pride can savor success. Once a year, the people of Hangzhou gather to celebrate a unique event in the lunar calendar. When it's late summer and the moon is full, this happens. The phenomenon is known as a tidal bore. An unusually high ocean tide is pulled from the bay and up the Chiantong River. It can be incredibly dangerous. These spectators gathered on a riverbank are engulfed by a 9-foot-high wall of water. Fortunately, no one is killed. The wave can reach speeds of 25 miles an hour, which makes it just about irresistible to these surfer dudes. They've come to do something you usually can't: surf on a river. Other rivers have similar tidal bores, but not on this scale. The single wave rolls along without hitting the shore.
Surfing these kinds of waves, it's different in the ocean because it's only one wave that comes. So if you lose the wave, you gotta just get the jet ski and try to catch again. It's not like the ocean where you can wait for another one to come.
The surfers stick with it for almost 12 miles.
It was a blast. We were riding the waves and you'd hear all the people screaming along the banks. It was wild. You'd hear, "Ah!"
So this tidal bore can be thrilling or terrifying, depending on where you're standing. Obama in the eye of a needle. Superman on the head of a pin. A caravan no larger than grains of sand. This art exhibit can only be seen through microscopes.
I did like the fly, the little flies that were dressed in their little outfits, and the Titanic, and of course Bart Simpson and Homer Simpson.
The artist is Willard Wiggin. He's made it big with his tiny works of art. But as a child, growing up in Birmingham, England, he had such severe learning disabilities, his teachers told him he'd never amount to anything. They were wrong. Because Willard possesses something special: incredibly steady hands. His works are so impossibly minuscule, they defy belief. In this boxing scene between Sonny Liston and Cassius Clay, the rope is made of a single strand of a spider's web. Here's the cast of Star Wars on a needle. And just to give you an idea of how tiny they are, he's touching the sculpture with a human eyelash. He works with whatever comes in handy. Balls of lint, picked off his clothes, often form the foundations of his figures, coated with a molecular layer of paint. Minnie here was made from a fiber he pulled from his sock.
What I did, I dissected the fiber and separated it into the shape. That one took me about, I'd say about a month and a half. There she is. And there's her little eyes there. She even has little eyelashes as well.
Wiggin is reluctant to reveal all the secrets of how he does it. But his paintbrush of choice?
I'll sort of find a dead fly and pluck the hair off the fly's head. This type of work requires more patience than a saint. It's like you have to be an alien.
When he was a child, Wiggin started creating miniature houses for ants because they were small and helpless, exactly the way his disabilities made him feel. His mom encouraged him.
When she saw the house that I made for the ants, she said to me, the ants need furniture. So I started making furniture for ants. Then she said to me I should make merry-go-rounds and carousels and seesaws and swings and little ladders, and then I started doing that. I showed her, and then she said, "That's amazing."
Working with microscopic objects has its drawbacks.
And when you've been working for 4 or 5 weeks and then you look and there's nothing there because you've inhaled it, it's not a nice feeling.
Fortunately, many of his creations have survived a wayward cough. CritterCam is an ingenious little camera designed by National Geographic that's attached to animals, so we can see what they're doing when we're not around. Researchers off the coast of Portugal are putting CritterCam on the animal with the largest head in the world, the sperm whale. They're hoping to eavesdrop on its conversations. Its head makes up an entire third of its body, and the whale uses it to make a sound in the front of its nose that resounds powerfully in the gigantic skull. The whale's call is so loud, it's believed it can stun prey.
We've got whales right ahead of you. They'll be off your starboard bow, about 150 meters.
With CritterCam attached, the whales dive deep. It gets darker and noisier. The recording device picks up strange new sounds researchers hadn't noted in sperm whales before. Growls, grunts, even squeals. They speculate a buzzing noise may even be a form of sonar to hone in on prey. Eventually, the camera is knocked by another whale and bobs to the surface. But not before revealing something. A whole new world of whale speak that can't be translated. For now. Top 5 Animal Appetites. Number 5. The caterpillar may munch on a diet of salad, but forget portion control. Some eat more than 3 times their body weight in a single day. Number 4's vampire bat has a different diet. Pure blood. Lots of it. The equivalent of a human sucking down about 12 gallons a day. Feeling faint? Number 3. Tasmanian devils are even more voracious. A devil can scarf up 40% of its body weight and do it in just 30 minutes. They're described as nature's vacuum cleaners. Number 2, the giant panda is an eating machine. It's feeding a full 12 hours out of every 24 and relieves itself dozens of times each day. Number 1 is the blue whale. It makes sense the world's largest mammal has the most voracious appetite. Even though it feeds on minuscule krill, your average blue whale slurps up to 4 tons of this stuff every day. Inside each and every one of us is the stuff that keeps us from falling apart. Literally. It's called bone. 206 pieces. Without it, we'd look like this. not a pretty sight. Bone is living tissue, so with practice we can get it to withstand some astonishing things. To find out just how much pressure bone can take, a champion gymnast gets an insert that will measure the impact on his feet. Bones are mainly made of two substances, calcium phosphate and the protein collagen. It's a perfect match. Without flexible collagen, bone would be as brittle as glass. And without calcium phosphate, it would be as unstructured as rubber. Together, they allow the gymnast to hurl his body through the air and land full force on the delicate bones of his feet and ankles.
Well, right here, he's over 150 pounds per square inch. Trust me, that's a big force.
In fact, studies show in some cases bones are stronger than concrete, so they can take a surprising amount of pounding. Although you might want to be careful putting them to the test. Americans generate 472 billion pounds of trash a year. And almost a fifth of that is food. That's right. Americans buy some 96 billion pounds of food, then throw it out. Talk about disposable income. You've heard about overpopulation, but what about places where babies are scarce? Countries in lighter shades on this map indicate low birth rates, fewer than 1.6 children per woman. That's significant because women on average need to bear 2.1 children to keep populations from shrinking. So, by 2050, there may be 28% fewer Italians in the world. In Japan, some are even handing out cash bonuses for a second child. And in China, with its decades-old one-child policy, each young person has to support about 4 elderly people. So this is what a baby bust looks like. The cat is one of the only animals ever known to domesticate itself. Our ancestors didn't tame these animals. Unlike dogs, they chose to live with humans. And it's worked out well for them. Now more than 600 million live in homes on 6 continents, perhaps becoming the world's most popular pet. But where did cats first turn from wild animal to human companion? Many suspect it started here, in Egypt, a land where cats were so venerated, in ancient times they were even mummified. These felines at a Cairo shelter may look like your typical alley cats, but some are known as Maos, a breed believed to be direct descendants from the cats of the pharaohs. The theory is that Egyptians allowed small wild cats in their dwellings to control rats, and the useful animals were eventually transported around the world. But there's been no proof. Nat Geo grantee Leslie Lyons is going to change all that. She's in Egypt to collect DNA samples from cats to trace the origins of the first domesticated felines. The team stalks their kitty quarry in the alleys and cafes of bustling Cairo. To get DNA, they swab saliva from the animal's cheeks.
And it's stuck in his whisker.
Chasing cats in an Egyptian market. Just one of the things researchers will do to prove a theory. Finally, Leslie's team amasses DNA from 89 Egyptian cats. And the results seem to confirm what's long been suspected: that cats all over the world, all colors and breeds, likely originated in Egypt and other parts of the Fertile Crescent. Now that all that's settled, we can all relax. Many poisonous frogs may be pretty to look at, but the golden dart alone contains enough toxins to kill 20,000 mice, or 100 grown men. So if you're a princess in the Amazon, don't go kissing any of these handsome specimens. What has the head of a horse, the body of a man, and the tail of a monkey? You're looking at it. Seahorses have to be one of nature's more bizarre creatures. They come in many varieties. The leafy sea dragon from Australia looks more like a plant. This is the pot-bellied seahorse. And the zebra snout. Some are on the verge of extinction. To learn more about them, researchers are breeding these odd creatures in nurseries. With this contraption, babies are agitated in this tank, sort of like a mini washing machine. Surrounded by food so they can eat whenever they get hungry. And where do these babies come from? Well, that's another thing that makes seahorses one of nature's more bizarre creatures. The males give birth. So here is a rare family portrait: Dad and his newborns. When tons of snow come barreling down a mountain at 200 miles per hour, not much can stand in the way. Avalanches kill an average of 150 people worldwide each year. But some innovators are trying to increase the odds of survival. Most avalanche victims aren't crushed to death, they suffocate. So researchers in Utah want to test a new device called an avalung. It works like this. If you're buried under snow, a tube draws oxygen from one area and then expels your breath behind you, keeping the air supply relatively fresh. The only way to test it out is to bury this guy alive. Without the avalung, he would last only 2 minutes.
13.
13 minutes.
It's 22 minutes. 22 minutes?
The clock keeps ticking.
30. 30 minutes.
Finally, his vital signs start to falter, and he's pulled free. The avalung has brought precious time, perhaps enough to allow for a rescue in a real avalanche. But the studies aren't over. Nat Geo grantee Tim Samaras, a scientist and engineer, plans to trigger an avalanche and bury test victims. But unlike the avalung experiment, this test will be too dangerous for human guinea pigs. So meet Iron Man and Foam Man. Iron Man is packed with sensors and cameras. They'll record the force of speeding snow. Meanwhile, Foam Man will test out this, an inflatable backpack that's supposed to float the victim to the surface of the cascading snow. To create an avalanche, the team plants 20 pounds of explosives on an unsteady slope. The hapless Iron Man and Foam Man have been placed directly in the path of what's likely to be a prodigious rush of snow.
Sirens on.
3, 2, 1.
The inflatable vest seems to work. Foam Man tumbles down the slope on the top of the snow, making rescue easier. Iron Man, however, is completely buried. He has to be dug out, one body part at a time.
Got Iron Man's head.
Ouch. Yeah, but there's no dents. You know, if he hit his head pretty good, I can't see it.
His internal camera shows the disaster from his perspective.
He's moving at the same
Data indicates he rotated 11 times, a combination of spins, cartwheels, and handsprings. Iron Man survived to be abused another day. But a real human may not have made it out of this alive. Top 3 countdown. World's major summits. Number 3. Kilimanjaro in Tanzania is 19,340 feet high. But it's considered a fairly easy climb by professionals. If you want to summit this ancient African volcano, then you might want to hurry. Its snow cap is melting, and it's projected to disappear in just a few years. Number 2. Denali in Alaska is only 1,000 feet higher, but it's a tougher ascent. It's really only possible to climb from May to July because the weather can be brutal. This is what frostbite looks like. But the view is amazing. Number 1. Mount Everest is a staggering 29,035 feet. This peak is the highest point on the planet. It's so high into the stratosphere that there's only a third of the oxygen here is found at sea level. The fatality rate for climbers is 9%. Still, every year hundreds of people try to beat the odds and scale Everest during the brief climbing season, sometimes creating traffic jams to the peak. This entire life-sized army is made of clay. There are thousands of warriors, each one unique, and fully dressed for battle. Fierce, yet fragile. Archaeologists are uncovering the Terracotta warriors in the Chinese region of Xi'an. The figures are so delicate, it's been a challenge to send some of them on a traveling exhibit. Including a life-size horse.
We had to bring in riggers because the horse weighed 750 pounds and it is made of terracotta. All 4 hooves had to hit the floor at the same time. Otherwise, the chance of breaking a leg was there. Clearly, this army could easily be smashed by an opposing force.
So what were they for? It's believed they stand before the tomb of the great Emperor Qin. He was the ruler that united China and ordered construction of the Great Wall more than 2,000 years ago. Some think the warriors are guarding Qin from the vengeful spirits of all the people who died under his reign. Or perhaps it's just a way to let the gods know he was a powerful ruler. For whatever reason, the delicate warriors were buried underground as soon as they were created 2,000 years ago. And now that they've been uncovered, it's possible to see them face to face. In a valley of ice and volcanoes, Japanese macaques relax in natural hot tubs. It's the perfect spot for some serious social mingling. Snow monkeys, as they're called, are a verbal bunch with an impressive mode of communication. Researcher Nobuo Masataka compares it to human language. They have a vocabulary of about 30 different identifiable calls, so he's offered to translate. This is a call of alarm. Feeling threatened. Scream of outrage. And, perhaps apropos to a hot tub, female looking for a hot guy. But Masataka wants to go further and actually initiate a cross-species dialogue. He chats up a youngster and gets a squeak in answer. After hitting it off with the kid, he tries again with an adult. This time he's met with an open-mouth grimace, a classic threat display. In other words, back off, buddy. Maybe someday humans will be able to talk with animals. But for now, these chatty snow monkeys in a hot tub seem to prefer mingling with their own kind. In Bolivia, villagers gather for an age-old religious festival and proceed to smack each other bloody. To outsiders, it may look like a neighborhood brawl that's out of control, but it's actually part of the ceremony. Which begs the question, why? The answer lies here. These Bolivians farm a brutal landscape high in the Andes and believe their crops will be nourished by the symbolic flow of blood. So villagers get ready to shed some. The helmet is modeled after those worn by the conquistadors 500 years ago. Gathering in the square, members of one village are pitted against those from another village. Man against man. Woman against woman. Even kids join in. They fight until they bleed. It's claimed almost every year someone dies. But there's not supposed to be lingering animosity. This is a symbolic fight to nourish the spirits, even if it hurts. The variety of life on Earth will startle you. Just keep your eyes and mind wide open.